Like I'm experiencing this full range. And if you try to, get really specific right now, you're not leaving room for the fact that there's this whole range that I might also want to experience. And I'm not crystallized in this moment. So you need to understand that there is this range and that I could be, I'm experiencing this in this moment right now, but this is going to change. This is going to pass away to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And so if I was to get too specific or try to crystallize something, then I would literally be misrepresenting the truth in that moment.
Oh God.
Wow.
Whoa. Oh man.
And also it's just sort of pigeonholing yourself. Like I don't want a person to see, like, just pick one quality and be like, Alexandra is this, because I'm not just that. It's
You're the
like
universe.
I am everything.
The big hormone enneagram.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres for the 5-link 458 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with 1 974 trifix.
What up? It's M9GA. I'm an 8-wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe us on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
Welcome to the Big Hormone Enneagram. We've been doing a series of podcasts on type 9s called Making Nines Great Again. And we did a part 1, we did a part 2, and this is part 3. In this episode, we're looking more at the 9's connection to everything. More of that philosopher of the universe shit. We take another look at 9 versus 4, and we wrap up with how we tricked our 9s into doing this podcast. Let's segue that into a question that some people have brought up. I hear this often as a reason why people don't relate to 9, the core fear of loss and separation. And I feel like what you guys are talking about, like feeling how someone is going to react to something first, is that what that is, or is that something else? And what is your experience of the fear of loss and separation?
And is that wrong? You
Yeah.
know, that could be wrong too. Like a lot of times people don't question some of the Enneagram canon out there. And so there's often better ways of getting at what the core fear is or whatever it might be.
So this is something I'm still sort of digging into, but what I have, like, so far is me being an attachment type. Like, if I'm going to, since this is like our phrase now, if I'm going to be open about my emotional location, that is almost me fully giving permission to become attached to this person. And I'll say it in relationships. It can be in like other settings too, but it's the easiest one for me to talk about. So my fear of separation is almost like having that pulled away suddenly. And I'm sure, Tara, I'm sure you'll add to this, but we were talking a little bit earlier in that I have always left relationships first. And I've always been the one to sort of quietly decide that I was going to leave a friendship and just like kind of just gently put some distance there. And I think it's a protective measure so that won't be pulled away from me suddenly. I don't know how to develop that further right now, but that's kind of how I experience fear of separation, because it takes a while for me to, like, if it's taken away suddenly, that is a shock. I don't know how to quite differentiate it with the fear of abandonment, which it kind of sounds like, because I don't necessarily fear being abandoned. I fear having to it's like a shock to my system almost, like suddenly having to be in this brand new energy, to be away from this energy that I've like taken in as my own now.
Loss and separation is, I don't understand that as an experience with people per se, but to me, it's some of the stuff that has come up even tonight, such as like John talking about the experience of the body being this, disgusting meat sack thing or whatever. That's kind of a sort of disunity and a separation, he was going deeply into his own separation from his own self in a certain way, right? And that made us go, that's right there an example of, I guess, fear of separation at a very abstract level, if that makes sense. And so, and also if you're identified with everything, sort of like that philosopher of the universe thing, that you're seeing everything, then the worst thing would be, a disconnection, a separation from that everything. So it's kind of abstract, but.
And if you've ever taken a Satipatthana course, then part of a Satipatthana.
Can you say that again? Say that again, please.
Satipatthana.
What is that?
So I took a Satipatthana.
Crazy 9 Buddhist thing.
So you have to in fact, this particular course, you have taken at least 3 10-day Vipassanas before you can even do this 8-day course. And part of the reason for that is that you are confronting everything that we're just discussing, which is that the body is also this crawling mass of pusses and liquids, and it's going to die, and there's all the bacteria, and it's just, this whole experience of the fact that we're living, but we're also dying. Our organism is dying, and it's kind of disgusting. And so there's a whole, I think part of the 9 too is that there's a whole attempt to be equanimous with that. Like, so part of the somatic experience, and when you're doing Vipassana and you're getting in touch with the sensations of what that actual experience is, it doesn't feel like this disgusting process in the end. It's just part of the somatic experience of the body. There's not a disunity from it. There's not it's not separate. So it ceases to be this thing that's disgusting that I have a judgment against and that I want to push away. It's just part of the truth. We're living, breathing, and dying. Or we're arising, abiding, and passing away. It's just an extension.
Philosopher of the universe.
I guess
right. So you took a course that showed that you really are connected to everything.
To everything.
Right.
Yeah, including the
everything
disgusting. That
it's the everything, even all the ugly, disgusting bugs of everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
Your warm heart takes them all in.
I don't know why.
Oh God.
I don't know why that was so.
Let's not go into
warm
that
heart.
Oh God, we need some boundaries.
No, you're afraid of those. Remember, you're afraid of those boundaries.
Yeah.
Fuck, I am.
No, the boundaries are included in the all.
Yeah.
They're not a problem.
But it's the boundaries, and the no boundaries.
Warm heart.
Why do I speak? Why do I speak?
Yeah, no more.
They're so rude.
Yeah, I guess it's happening on a subconscious abstract level, that it's already built into the 9 that you're part of everything. And I guess most 9s aren't really seeing how their perspective is carrying that all the time. So maybe it's on a level that most people wouldn't really recognize by reading it on a page. Like fear of loss and separation is too big of an idea to really unpack.
I mean, one thing you could say about 9s, another way it manifests is people generally, just very generally, like 9s, or there's going to be a decent chunk of the population, whereas like John, like there's only going to be a small, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Small elite.
Small elite.
Tasteful.
Oh my God.
Yes. Deep.
Very deep. No, but like a lot of people don't like me. Totally.
Right. So, and my point is that 9s are at some level doing something that's getting them non-loss, non-separation in a generalized way with people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like I kind of am free to not be around people because I know that people do like me. This is a big part of my deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
The arrogance.
The arrogance. There it is.
I don't have to do shit. You guys are coming this way anyway. You're coming back.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the horrible things about 9s is they're very likable. You know,
it's a problem.
Yeah. I was gonna say something about a little bit more about that connectedness or the fear of separation is so we haven't gotten as much into the double attachment or whatever, but I think part of where nines get that mothering and fathering element is from this sort of like universe connection. So I think without that, we would just kind of be floating in space, not knowing anything. That's been a thought that has crossed my mind, like, I don't know, throughout my life every now and then. Just this sort of fear of like, oh God, I don't know anything. I'm just going to float around for infinity. You know, like that movie, what is that movie with Sandra Bullock in space? Oh, Gravity. Is that Gravity?
Mm-hmm,
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So that sounds terrifying, where she's floating in nowhere, because like, I don't know, I feel like really, really entranced nines that like don't know they're nines and don't recognize anything that they need to be working on, I feel like are very close to just floating around in space anyway. So there's a fear of like floating too far, like that balloon that the kid lets go and then it's just gone forever.
Can you flesh that out a little bit? Because I'm having a hard time. Like, how is it connected to like the father mother protective nurturing function as attachment type? It's like that's what keeps you bound to something.
Yeah, like in my experience, it's always been with some sort of like spiritualism or philosophy or something like that, like some sort of, you know, that philosopher of the universe thing that we were talking about. Like I know things, and as long as I can, and this is speaking from like, you know, not a very healthy place, as long as I can stay zoomed out but connected, I'm not going to just go out too far. So it's, I don't know, it almost feels like testing the limit a little bit. Like if I need to stay zoomed out so that I can see everything and understand everything and be nurtured and be led in this really abstract way, but too much distance out that way will keep me from getting that.
Like you need to be tethered to some of your significant relationships so that you don't dissolve by zooming out so much.
Or even just the mindset.
And then the opposite would be too bound.
Too specific.
Yeah, it can be too specific. Yeah. Well, because that kind of speaks to what I was speaking earlier, that getting too specific, getting too in the world, I guess, and in my body and in my everything kind of keeps me from seeing like a bigger picture or something.
When people try to get too specific with me, I literally experience that sometimes. It's like this very tedious sense where people are stealing my freedom or like stealing my so sometimes the specificity is not welcome for me as a nine.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Slippery fish.
With my previous comment, it was not necessarily
Slippery fish.
That's so funny.
Like it's not necessarily about interest but it's more about specificity, where it's like nines automatically want to universalize anything that's specific. Or it's like let's say, you know, like a 4 or 5 or whatever specific personality is trying to dig into a corner, a nine would say, well, let's pull it back and let's look at the big picture. Is that an autonomy thing? What is that resistance? What's going on there?
I think when it comes to relationships, that could be like I'm experiencing this full range. And if you try to, you know, get really specific right now, you're not leaving room for the fact that there's this whole range that I might also want to experience, and I'm not crystallized in this moment. So you need to understand that there is this range and that I could be, I'm experiencing this in this moment right now, but this is going to change. This is going to pass away to something else.
Yeah, totally.
And so if I was to get too specific or try to crystallize something, then I would literally be misrepresenting the truth in that moment.
Oh God.
Wow.
Whoa. Oh man.
And also it's just sort of pigeonholing yourself. Like I don't want a person to see, like, just pick one quality and be like, Alexandra is this, because I'm not just that. It's
You're the
like
universe.
I am everything. It's ever changing. We mentioned something in the chat. It's like trying to get specific or trying to fully wrap your head around a nine, I feel like is a lot like holding a fistful of sand. It's just not going to happen. It's going to change. It's going to like leak out. It's impossible.
That's like completely
Wow.
exactly the opposite of what I was speaking to about that like platonic
Yeah.
ideal of the image type.
Right.
It's like this frozen above, like like removed from the ups and downs of moment to moment life, where sometimes I'm just like scrolling on the computer and doing nothing. It's like I still want you to have in view that like source of depth, and it's like I'm so specific. I'm so specific, and like it almost feels like doing my taxes dilutes that specificity. It's doing normal stuff like takes away from the specificity and almost dilutes, like it almost rubs away some of the what I am. It's like if I'm doing too much of what I'm not, then it starts to detract from what I am, and I have to keep going back to what I am.
Jesus, that's a lot.
Yeah, the oppositeness between 4 and 5 space versus 9. I mean, it's literally there on the symbol. It can't be emphasized enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty major for me because as an 8, I have an overview kind of perspective as well, where I can see things from very large external, but it's also like, let's figure out where things are. And my perspective is that you can get a handle on somebody over a period of time, and you can put them in a certain location. Like, this is what this is, because we've seen this do the same thing for years and years. And so if you repeat the same patterns, then that's what you are. But my experience with 9s is that there's a resistance of, even if what you're saying is happening or you're pointing out about them is accurate and it is true, the resistance is that, well, what you're noticing right now isn't necessarily the full picture because I'm so many other things. And it feels like a reflexive kind of thing where even if what is noticed is true, we can't say that that's what it is because there has to be so many other aspects of it.
That would pin the 9 to a specific location with
No,
certain
I don't mind being pinned down to a specific location, so long as we leave room for the fact that yes, this is what I'm experiencing right now, and then there's all this other stuff happening alongside of it.
So the location, in other words, has a lot of width location-wise.
But you can't, like, for a 9, you can't just say, so this is the truth of what's happening for you. That's like, well, there is this, I can tell you right now that I'm expanding or I'm contracting or I'm feeling closer to you or I'm not. there's all these there's this that's happening right here in this moment. I'm experiencing this, but there's more to it. There's always more, and there's different layers. And so I don't mind getting specific. Just leave room for the fact that I'm going to keep uncovering more layers about this thing.
Yet 4 and 9 seem to do the same thing of like, you can't capture me, but in completely opposite direction. Like the 4, it's like I'm so specific and so like in the depth thing that like the point that you can never reach. And then 9, it seems like you can't reach me because I'm all everything.
So is it almost for 4 like needing a very, very, very specific key? Like if you don't have this one exact, super complicated key, then you don't get it?
You mean for another person to get the key?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the other person has to really get the specific flavor, however that shows up. So like there is a thing about, do you actually like see me, or are you just projecting onto me? And I'm not making it easy for you.
Like the 4, it's almost like they know what their experience is. They're very specific about what it is. And for the 9, they're leaving the mystery of it's not all there yet. Like it's this and it's more. Right. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
It's also an extension of being a gut type that, like heart and head, there's articulation and specificity of words come up around, heart stuff or emotional center stuff and head center stuff. And head center is words, right? But gut is, you're in sort of elemental territory, right? It's totally a nonverbal space, and 9s are somewhat protective of that non-verbal quality of their experience. Like you're just wanting to have an experience flush through your body to some degree and not want to have to name it per se.
Yeah.
Not always, but generally you're just wanting to ride a wave of a sensation of an experience and a feeling and so on.
Well, I'll give you an example, because So here we're talking about sensation, and somebody tries to get an emotional location of where you're at. As soon as you name where you're at, that sensation in your body completely shifts, and you're in the next
Yes.
moment with that
Yeah.
person. And that's
Oh my
another level
gosh.
of intimacy. So as soon as I voice it, as soon as I represent it, I'm in a different moment. And let's
Yes.
ride that wave by all means. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
And that goes into the somatic experience of the 9.
So when you're in love, like, is it different?
It's exquisite.
But in
There's
trying
a sexual 9.
in trying to give up the location or not, or be specific or not, like, and love, at least in my experience, is very, very specific. It's like, this is what I like and what I want to share, and what I'm what's turning me on, and blah 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 blah. It's like, it's those specifics. And so how does that work for a 9?
It doesn't need to get specific for me in love or in a relationship. In fact, like, when there definitely is more room and more space for some of that specificity to pop up, but I always need to be given the room for it to like wane again, and in fact, like, in relationships that demand specificity, or in relationships that require like awareness of where I'm at all the time, I withdraw hard. I withdraw very quickly. So I need relationships that give me the room to just sort of transform as I choose. I don't know, something like that. Like, I'm in relationship with a 7, so he doesn't really need anything specific for me, and him also being appreciating variety. It is different, but there's a similar energy there, and so basically, I don't think I could be with 4. Sorry, John.
What?
That was a 9 erasing everything she just said.
That just deeply hurt me.
I'm sorry. Please don't make me deal with it.
That was good. So in love, with the, just kind of to piggyback off of what you said, because I do like it makes me realize how much I do appreciate specificity, and that may have come about as I've matured. I'm not, I think it's probably been a journey. Keeping things like vague and sort of at the surface, it's actually been like that's so not part of my really has ever been part of my profile, my psychic profile.
It seems like, depending on the 9, that there's degrees to which certain 9s appreciate specificity versus others. Does that seem to resonate?
There's a fine line between that being seen thing. You want to be seen, and you don't want to be seen in some ways.
And the more that I develop the capacity to say to someone, to say to a partner, like, can we revisit this? But in when I'm being genuine about it.
Instead of when you're lying.
Not when I'm in a diplomatic situation, which I'm talking about specifically with a lover. Yeah, not like in a work situation or something like that. But with the oh gosh, I lost my train of thought there.
About specificity. Try to jog your memory.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to edit this. Can you
I will not edit this.
Yeah, keep this in for a 9 moment.
This is how the 9.
This is the best moment of the.
I just got really shy, and now I can't. I just wilted like a little flower. I was already on territory that was really
Tara, we're all
edgy
connected.
for me.
We're all connected.
We're all connected, and we're all here with you.
You're asking me to get specific, and I just lost it. Oh yeah, here we are. We're back. So if I can, the more I get better at being able to tell someone, like, okay, I'm at my capacity with this conversation, or with how specific we've been. Can we come back to it? And the more I get good at those types of boundaries, the more I appreciate specificity. And I will move away from that conversation and get more clear about it. And the more permission I have from that person, or the more allowing that I experience from them, for me to be able to pull away and get more clear and come back to them, the more I'm really happy for specifics. But it's the person that kind of, like, tries to put their finger on me too much and pin me down and doesn't want to let up. That can, I can even get like rather feel really aggressive towards that.
Someone who can give you space to say, like maybe you don't have to answer that if you until you're ready, or like
I'm going to answer it to this degree right now because this is as clear as I am about this right now, and I just need to get a bit more clear because there's more layers to this, and it really is important to me to be congruent and sincere and honest with what I'm saying. And the full truth of it maybe isn't clear to me right now, but I can give you this much, and I can, continue to explore this, and I need to come back to it.
Okay, that gives me some clarity because it's more like nines aren't really seeing a clear picture, and if they're being pushed to see a clear picture, then they're going to get violently angry.
Yeah, you're trying to pin me down, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's like there's a spotlight suddenly, and the spotlight's very location specific, and so it's like, I can't do this singular location.
So one thing I wanted to bring up or ask about, because we're recording this on March 14th, and it's sort of the tipping point where coronavirus is starting to freak people out, and
that Rona.
Rona is melting people. Heavy is the corona, and so nines have that line of 6, and so some of y'all were expressing fear or anxiety and wanted to hear a little bit about it.
Alexandra's groaning because she doesn't even want to talk about it.
This is your support hour. Let us know what you feel.
We're with you.
No, I have never felt fear or anxiety ever in my life. I don't know what you guys are talking about. No, I was freaking the fuck out yesterday.
Like, what does that look like?
Okay, so what it feels like is me just kind of sort of it all hitting me at once. So obviously, like I receive those sort of like warning signals in real time, but it's almost like I put them away in a drawer. It's almost just like, that's a little scary. I'm just gonna put that in here.
Controlling
and then suddenly,
the time even with yourself.
Yeah. Oh fuck. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, and then realizing that drawer is full and being like, oh my God, there's so much I haven't like considered, and it's for me, it's very physical. Like I've just felt very on for the past few days. But for me also being a 9, I'm still covered by like 9. That's like kind of how I experienced while I'm disintegrating to 6. I still feel sort of covered by 9. So I'm just like wide-eyed and mute, basically. So it's almost easier for me to experience or to explain the experience with like how Sebastian's been experiencing me, because he can tell that I've been nervous, but when he asks me a question, it's almost like I word vomit all at once. Like, this is happening, and this is and it's going to spread, and everything's going to happen, and we don't have anything prepared, and it's like suddenly I'm very like sharp. At least that's been my experience. Also, having a 6 fix, I feel like a super 6 when that happens. So I become very sharp, and it overwhelms him pretty quickly, and he backs off. And then as soon as no one's in front of me, I'm like back to being quiet, but almost like obsessive with taking in this information, because I get convinced in that moment that the more that I learn, the more that I'll be just at ease.
9s are, when they go to 6, they're more 6-ish than 6s are.
Really?
It's because 6s are expecting 6ness and 9s aren't expecting 6ness, right?
Right.
You're kind of, there is a sort of naive, childlike thing with 9s where you're halfway expectant of some positive something that's somewhere down the road, right? That's finally I'm going to get to rest. there's going to be this nice cloud that I can, just like a hammock that I can nestle into, right? And you're sort of not preparing for immediate impact. Alarms are going off and red lights and blink, blink, blink,
Like I feel it like a tightness in my chest almost, and I'm like, okay, I have to sit very still and just wait for this to be over, because I feel like I'm going to die.
That's the other piece of
it.
it.
From the coronavirus, but just from
anxiety.
fear. Yeah.
That's the other piece of it, is that it's the fear is flush through the body, so you're actually in it, right, in a certain kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, I don't start to like right now. I feel I told you guys I was feeling anxious about all of this, but for me, where my breakdown with as a 9 begins is honestly this way. It's when I start to feel like, how might I compromise myself and what's important to me? And as soon as any thought goes there, like this crisis is going to cause me to compromise something, or maybe, and it's that speculation of, will I compromise something that's important, and what will that mean about me? And that's whenever things can really unravel for me. And what I notice about crisis in general is that it's honestly where I operate at the best, but that is contingent on other people, actually. And I didn't discover this until we had the 2 natural disasters in California. And the first natural disaster that I went through, my father was dying of cancer at the same time. And I just sailed through that crisis because I had to be strong for my dad. There was no question that I knew exactly what was important. And that was my father not being afraid and being there for him. And so I just made it through this crisis in such a graceful way. And then the second disaster hit 18 months later, and I was just out on the edge of Big Sur in a treehouse, and there was nobody for me to take care of except for myself. And granted, it was the second disaster, but when there wasn't an anchor for me, then that's whenever I began to unravel a bit more. It's helpful for me if I'm taking care of other people or there's other people in the picture. But when it's just me by myself, I'll tend to isolate and kind of contract around some of the fear and the anxiety. And that's when that paralysis can come in.
What about you, David?
Yeah, as a self-pres.
Oh, Corona?
Or just crisis in general.
Yeah, the crisis around it, like the financial crisis is probably going to happen, or any of that kind of stuff.
I'm probably still in denial, I guess. I mean, I think I said in one of the chats that I bought it kind of casually, bought a few things on Amazon, some cans of tuna fish and stuff. And, I'm mostly worried about job money stuff. The job I happen to be doing is already was working from home for the last couple of years, and I think it's pretty safe. That would be the thing, the income thing. That would be, then I'd totally turn into the sixiest six of ever sixes. I would completely have a meltdown if there's no longer money coming in. That's where I go crazy. So I've just been focusing on me and can I eat. I've just that's always a central theme for self-pres 9 is
as long as there are still bananas and peanut butter being made, I'll be
bananas and peanut butter. I'm stocking up on the bananas and peanut butter. And is the food truck that goes to my mouth every day, is it going to pull up still?
And as long as there's someone that I have to pretend it's all okay to, I'll be fine.
Yeah, actually, I do relate to that. So, like I said, I've partnered with a 7, and he, in very appropriate 7 fashion, has been being way too optimistic about this. And while I'm here living as just a straight up 6, it's been annoying the shit out of me. It's been like get on board. So it's interesting because when he is, being the optimist, it leaves room for me to be nervous and for me to be, sort of like stricken with fear and this, like, we got to prepare, we got to get all our shit together so that, we'll be fine. Anyway, it hit him today and my mood has shifted. Whereas now he's worried. And I'm sure part of it is also that I am prepared now, so I don't feel quite as nervous, but yeah.
You need to bring balance to the force.
There you go, balance. 9 as the balancer, yeah.
Yeah, as a 9, don't ever believe me when I say everything is fine. I am lying through my teeth.
We know that's true. We know
I will
that's
always say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, every 9 is thoroughly lying when they say that.
Every 9.
I've got this.
Every 9, every time. Every 9, every time. They say
it's never fine.
It's a lie.
But by the way, when I say that I'm not okay, I am okay. But I'm not okay. I'm lying, but I've got this. I really mean it. I really do have it. I have it probably better than I feel like most of the people. Like, I have it, but I'm not okay. But I always have it.
Cool. That clears everything up.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
I do. I understand. Like you're oh, I just lost my train of thought. Shut it. I don't feel that sense of calm, but I trust in my abilities or something like that. Like I'm going to move through this fine.
Yeah. And if anybody is around me is not fine, they'll be fine. And I'll be fine. But I'm not okay necessarily. But I would never tell you that because that might make you unfine.
Right.
Part of how the gut autonomy shows up in 9 is I can handle anything ultimately.
Absolutely. I can handle anything.
And it's partly that thing of being spread as wide as the ocean, right? Like a nuclear bomb could go off in the ocean and that's just like a splash to the ocean, right? Because you're that big of an energy spread that far wide that you can absorb everything, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like how you said that.
Philosopher of the universe.
Thank you very much. Need to hear that more often.
Nothing can touch me.
That's it.
The
Autonomy
Alex Gray
of the
painting.
9.
What's that?
The Alex Gray painting.
There you go. That's it.
Y'all are fucking insane, I tell you.
Oh yeah,
Jesus
it's
Christ,
a special kind of crazy.
But I did learn some things today. Adding some things to the 9 playbook.
Gonna go out and get himself a Corona honey.
Corona honey.
CoronaHoneys.com.
It's like
Mika's
cupping
looking
season.
for someone to get quarantined with.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to all thank our intrepid editor Emika for editing out lots of pauses and ums and 9
minutes.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
And
Hang on.
I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?
I lost my train of thought. I wilted.
I'll get back to this.
And also never mind what I just said. I didn't say anything.
I don't know if I just said anything just there.
Who said that?
My favorite. That's my favorite. Is never mind all the stuff I just said.
Yeah.
I don't
just
know
said
if that
this
makes
long
any
thing
sense.
and I don't know if it makes any sense. Yeah.
Let me get back to you on that. That's my favorite.
That was a good one from Alexandra.
Thank you. All right. Well, this was a sneaky little trick. You guys said we were just gonna I didn't realize we were gonna be straight up recording a podcast.
Oh, you believe me?
They tricked us.
I did. It worked very well.
Good. I can't believe that you're for real.
I
know.
I was being sarcastic.
I can't believe it. I should have known. Like, why did all these social blinds just want to chat? They grew quick.
Like I said, not naive 9.
Whatever.
That shit actually worked. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
You guys totally tricked us. And as a 9, I didn't say anything, but I felt entirely tricked from the moment the intro came on.
Yeah. As soon as you said intro, I was like, what the fuck? You're just gonna talk.
And as a 9, you didn't even say anything. You didn't even say what the fuck.
An hour and 45 minutes later.
And now, see, they're controlling the time.
God.
Slow rollout on a what the fuck.
No.
We did provide you
Like
the
my
compassion
thing
and support that you needed. I think
Yeah.
we accomplished by listening. We were listening to your point of view.
It was mutual and balanced.
And we wanted to let you know that we are connected with you and we are there with you, experiencing all the anxiety and sickness that you're going through.
Come on, Alexandra, get really
lots of reciprocation.
I know, yeah. Fuck off, both of you.
And we also recorded part 2 of making Type 9s great again. So, 2 birds with one stone.
Well, positive side, it all worked out. We're all fine, and it went well.
Everything's fine.
Yeah,
we were holding that in for an hour and 45 minutes, Alexandra. I'm
and
embarrassed.
also, oh well, that was fun. In any case,
yeah,
we enjoyed ourselves despite ourselves, and we went along with it, and we had fun anyway. But this is often how the 9 feels at the end of it. It's true. And that whole time I was mad at you, but I was enjoying it.
And you just extended yourself there to make John and Emika feel okay about all of
Yeah,
it.
because we were really upset that we had upset you.
Yeah. And now you just made them feel better about all the trauma that it caused.
Man, this is living up to the philosopher of the universe tag because it's just become meta 9. Like it's not just that the podcast was about 9, but like the circumstance of the podcast itself has revealed the 9ishness.
They went along with that hook, line, and sinker. I was like, wow, that was easy.
I just thought you guys knew
how
we were.
rude!
I just thought you knew what was up. Like
That was easy, so
Well,
mean.
They were heart reacting to the comments. I was like, oh.
You fucking asshole, Emika.
John and Emika care so much.
Alexandra, I'm here for you.
You are not. You are not.
I'm here.
Well, no, he's an 8, right?
Whatever. I was like, oh,
I'm
for a
here
second,
for
I was
you.
like, wow, this is his 2. This is so nice. What a joke. What a fucking joke.
I'm a saint.
Positive outlook. We are positive outlook, Alexandra. And this is what we have to bear in life.
So funny.
That's how we would have meant it.
Compassion and support. I'm here for you.
Well, I believe deep down you do. So I'm gonna
no.
rest easy
don't
that.
positive reframe again.
We would have enjoyed talking with y'all anyway. But.
Anyway, yes.
But
absolutely.
No, very sneaky. Well, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, I think this is an example. We didn't really get into this, but this is an example for me, at least, of when 9 goes to 3. And wow, this is what 9 is, like getting behind their own voice. Like this is something that can be played back. I was so terrified I could never listen to the podcast because I was afraid I wouldn't do the second one. But it's that level of okay, I'm going to say something and I'm going to get behind it, and that thing can be played back, and I am specified in that location because I said that.
I agree.
There it is.
I agree. You can also tell like the difference in comfort level between Tara and I, just from the first one to now. I feel like we were both more willing to like let's take this.
A little less like an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, your trickery could have been a part in that. So very smart.
They primed us. They emotionally seduced us before.
I know.
Before we came on.
They
Gotcha.
they 9'd us. This is no big deal to us. So sneaky.
You guys have no idea how much you've enabled me to manipulate and seduce many 9s from here on forward.
Oh God.
I understand.
Enabling this.
You're welcome.
I understand
You're
y'all
welcome.
so much more now. I can tailor.
Well, we'll see. If you think you can tailor, you weren't listening very well.
The ultimate power still comes back. There's the gut type sneakily trickling in.
You can't get me.
Yeah.
You cannot get me. I am
I've still got the autonomy.
Well, I learned a lot. I really appreciated doing this call. I'm glad I got tricked.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
I learned a lot too. I mean, it's been an ever-going project for me in terms of trying to understand 9s because for me, I think 9s are the most mysterious type. I mean, you've got 4s and 5s, but like.
Yeah, no, 9s are by far harder to figure out.
Yeah. And just when you think you've got a 9 figured out, they're gonna let you know like you don't know anything.
Totally.
I am the ocean.
Well, like with 4s, they want you to know really specifically, and they have very specific terms, and like this is what it is, and this is how it is, and so it's like okay, that's what it is. But with a 9, it's like, well, you know, I don't want to limit it to just this, but you know, and this might.
In this moment, we are that, but then we're also this, and it might be that.
No, and like I mean, in the endless like 9 versus 4 discussions online, where a 9 will identify as a 4. You know, you'll say something like, "Oh, well, you know, generally speaking, this is what 4s are about, or this is what 9s are about, or something." And it's like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm that too," but it's you know, it gets in this wishy-washy thing, you know, but versus like you know, like a 4 like Joseph, like, ew, no,
Yeah.
Just flat out, just no, disgusting.
I'm never going to forget that one comment in the 4 group of, I think it was like an Instagram post or something like that. And apparently the 4 what fours would be doing is like sitting by a window contemplating the beauty of
God.
nature or something like that, or like
Oh my
quietly watching
gosh.
the snowfall. That's what it was. And I was
Oh
like,
my
hey,
God.
this is super 9. And her response to me was, oh, well, do you also contemplate the beauty of nature? Like, bitch, of course I am the beauty of nature. Of course I do.
Yeah, no, 4 is contemplating the lack of beauty in nature. You know, everything is horrifying.
A rotting decay.
Everything has been deprived of the beauty. You know.